Hi, folks. So happy spring. My only sibling killed himself on spring, unless he was pushed off the building. I mean, it's not like something he could just get over. Like, well, it's okay. That kid was like a son to me, actually, when he was first born. My mother gave birth to him prematurely, and then my father and I had to drive to the hospital in an ice storm. And the fact that he was alive just, wow, that was. When I could look at him through the nursery window, they wouldn't allow you to visit the nursery, but they, at certain times, it would allow you to look through the nursery window. I was just like, how could this little gypsy girl be your sister? You're just a perfect little specimen person, little guy. 5 pounds, 9.5 ounces, John. Michael. My middle name is Michelle, so stop. I'm racking my brains. What more could I have done for that little kid? He and I didn't always get along as he was growing up. I was almost like his second mother, his second babysitter. I had so many different babysitters. It made anybody's head spin. It would. He said he and I did not have a good relationship because he was a hyperactive little. He was like Dennis the Menace. He's like setting off firecrackers in the neighbor's yard or something under his wife's dress or something. He's just like, he and I were totally the opposite. I was like the bookish person who was always reading Jane Eyre and later on Gone with the Wind. But Jane Eyre, come on, Jane Eyre was my favorite novel. And I read other things like Ruffles and Drums, like with an English guy and an American girl. I want to talk about that little teenage romance, which was a preteen romance. I want to talk about that kind of thing. One time, I remember my brother I thought he had swallowed a cap to his diaper rash ointment, and I was so worried he was going to choke. It's like, you idiot. I was left to babysit him, which is fine, because I cared about him and I loved him very much. If he had choked on it, wouldn't have been pretty much immediate. I was just so worried that he had choked on it, and it took me like 2 hours to find the cap. I'm like, oh, thank God he didn't swallow it. Well, swallowing a cap to diaper rash ointment won't kill you. You're going to pass it. I didn't know that at the time, Oh, I love that kid so much. I can show you pictures of me holding him. I said he's egg with eyes. I somehow confused that with like a movie that I saw on Saturday morning, The Egg and I. To me, his head looked like an egg. I was so enamored of my little brother. However, there were issues with our family. My mother had divorced my father before my brother even knew it happened, like shortly after he was born. She divorced him, and then later on she told him, well, I actually divorced your father, but then we got back together, so everything's all fine. And then she forced him to go through all the Catholic stuff, to become confirmed. I'm like, Mother, you never forced me to go through all the Catholic. She cared about him a lot more than she cared about. That's what I thought. It's not what I thought. It's what I know. He was a great white hope. I'm the little gypsy who cared for the kid who changed his diapers. And when he got mixed up with the wrong girl. I don't want to even talk about it, but he did die in spring. It's not nice when you sing that song, but it's a little bit, sometimes don't you think it's a little bit funny? No, I'm not going to talk about that, so. Springtime for Hitler and Germany. My family was a bunch of total Nazis. It's like they have no compassion for the Jews. It really bothers me too. Oh my gosh. Yeah. people around me don't really care. Well, you lost your only sibling to an untimely death. Oh well, life sucks. No, really, this kid, he was like to me, he was everything. I get choked up, and there's no resolution because we know that people that contributed to his death are still, I don't know if they're living large or living the life of Riley, really. Now listen, there were bad people involved in this, like police misconduct and all that sort of thing. I don't want to go into details. Jane Eyre is my favorite novel, but The Diary of Anne Frank, editor, unedited. It really should bother you that an innocent girl and her family, except for her father, should have died in such a cruel way. I mean, so I'm just wondering, am I plotting? It's like every spring I feel as if my brother might have killed himself, being a Wiccan or something, like he killed himself on the spring thing that they do. He was my only brother. If he was here, I would hold his face between my hands and say, hello. He's gone forever. You can't replace somebody that's gone. So likewise, I feel the same way about the Jewish population. It was mostly victimized in Europe, and I don't understand why. I don't think my grandparents liked the Jews, but they didn't have the stomach to kill anybody. They just... Oh gosh. My grandmother and my grandfather, who came from Europe, they didn't like the Jews, but they didn't like African American people either. They really didn't like gypsies, although my grandfather was a gypsy. They were the kindest, gentlest people you ever knew. They could not... I mean, even today, I see a bug in my father's house. I'm like, well, it's a cute bug. It looks like a shield, Some say it's a stink bug. To me, it looks like a shield bug. We call it a shield bug. I will put the bug outside or the spider outside. My husband is like that. Yet, earlier this afternoon, we got into a bit of an argument. I said, if you really cared about me, you would have done something about the things that I said really bothered me. I'm crying, these tears are not fake. Well, maybe you have a neurological syndrome that does not allow you to feel empathy and compassion for other people. I certainly remember when I was a little girl, I felt a lot of sadness, and I couldn't explain it. I thought, well, it's just about me. I'm not at this point. The jury is out on that. If somebody could give me evidence, one way or the other, that Erica only cared about herself. Certainly, I have tried to help people as long as I had money. Like, for example, I gave a dime to a guy because that's all I had in my pocket. It's like, you're barking up the wrong tree, fella. I don't carry Bitcoin in my pockets. No, you're not funny. Just stop. I can't understand why people don't plots. Like, I would cry uncontrollably for hours around my house, even before my brother was born. And my parents said, oh, shh, she's got to cry herself out. However, the reason for that is not, I don't think it's just about me. There's some mourning that people don't necessarily experience. And forgive me if I say, I don't know why. I like people, and I have no problem with people, and I have no grudge anymore towards people. Now, okay, I'm going to tell you something. A lot of victims of crime are right here in Ohio. You could look at victims of crime. I feel as if my brother was a victim of crime when he jumped off a building, but there was a lady who interfered with his life. She was just like a plastic person, like very tan with her artificial boobs and her artificially bright blue eyes. I had nothing to go on other than she seemed to be a natural person. When I went to give her a hug, she's like, ooh, cringing away from me. I don't not shower, at least periodically I do. There's something wrong with somebody that reacts that way when you are a relative of the person that you supposedly love. And then later on in the cheap hotel that my parents had paid for, she's like, oh, you're so great. I like you. She had been told that maybe she had not reacted properly. Am I that sort of a person that's like really... I mean, tell me if I need to take a shower. I mean, apparently I do periodically, and I change my clothes every several days. I mean, honestly, why do I need to change my... Okay, you need to change your pajamas every night and then put your clothes back on. Okay, if you say so. I had a bit of a row with my husband over the airwaves earlier today. Said, you don't care that my brother died. Well, I care. I liked your brother. He's a great guy. He doesn't... I've hardly ever seen him shed a tear except when he's talking about his pets. But my brother meant so much more to me than a pet. You understand? This was like a child or like a twin to me. He meant so much, and now he's gone. It's so difficult, folks. I started accusing him and his parents and some of his kids of being psychopaths. It's like, if you don't feel any human emotion, you must be a psychopath. It's like, well, I'm going to be calm and cool as a cucumber. Then there must be something wrong with you if you're that calm and cool as a cucumber, because I cry at the drop of a hat. I do, even. Yeah, like, I do. I care about things. That's why I take care of things. I'm very kind. I will keep the cats out of my room because the cats will destroy the plants, and the cats are not allowed to do that. I want my tomato plants. I want my zucchinis. Listen, there's only one perfect person who has ever existed. I think that would be Jesus. He cares about you, and yet he doesn't plots too much. He's just like the perfect guy, because he's also God. He's human, and yet beyond human at the same time. Have you reached that level? I don't know. I'm just so depressed that the Holocaust happened and Frank had to die, and also my brother, whom I tried to send religious literature to, died too, an untimely death, and he's like 9 or 10 years younger than I don't just make stuff up. I mean, I wish people would realize that I just don't like invent things for my own... Why would I? It's like, am I some sort of like a... Never mind. I'm sad. I am sad. I am sad. I'm perpetually sad until Jesus returns, and I think that's just the way of things. So I try to make up for it by posting funny things occasionally. I'm not trying to play pranks on anybody, but if it happens, it does, I am sad that my brother died. He died about this time of the year, and I did everything I could in my power to stop it and let everybody know